Listen to me, fear is a liar. Every time you let fear speak, it builds a wall between you and your destiny. But champions don't play small. Champions don't bow down to limits. Today, I'm telling you, no fair, no lamais, because when you decide to step into the fight with courage, when you refuse to quit, when you burn that doubt to the ground, that's when you discover who you really are. This ain't about talking, this is about lying. So let's go. Fear is a choice, not a chain. When people hear that, most of them instantly think about all the times they've been paralyzed by the unknown, by failure, by what others might say, and they begin to argue in their minds that fear is automatic, that it's something beyond control. But the truth is, fear is not some immovable mountain that traps you forever. Fear is a decision. This is my last one. An agreement you make with the thoughts that try to hold you back. It disguises itself as protection, but it's nothing more than a cage you willingly walk into when you decide to give it power. Every time fear whispers that you're not ready, not worthy, not strong enough, you get to decide whether to believe it or to break it. The chain isn't real. The lock isn't real. What's real is the moment you say yes or no to it. Think about it. Every great person you've ever admired, every champion who's ever stood on top of the world, every leader who changed history, they all faced fear. The difference is that they didn't treat it like a permanent prison. They treated it like a signal, a test, a choice. Fear says, stop. But courage says, go. Fear tells you to shrink, but discipline tells you to expand. The most powerful thing you can understand is that fear only survives when you feed it. If you stop giving it your belief, if you stop watering that doubt with your thoughts, and the moment it dies, your real strength shows up. People love to use fear as an excuse. They say, I couldn't start because I was afraid. I couldn't speak because I was nervous. I couldn't chase my dream because I was worried about failing. But the deeper truth is they chose to listen to fear. They chose to hand it the keys. Fear doesn't force your hand. It simply offers you a way out, a weaker path, and you either walk down that road or you refuse. If you make fear the ruler of your life, you'll always live with limits. If you make courage your compass, you'll break barriers others thought were impossible. When you wake up in the morning and your heart races about what's coming, when you feel that tension in your chest because the challenge ahead feels too big, you've got to remember, you're the one who decides how that energy is used. Fear and excitement feel the same in the body, the same pounding heart, the same sweaty palms, the same restless energy. One perspective says, I'm afraid. The other says, I'm ready. That's the choice. And it's the same choice over and over again. Fear only becomes your chain when you let it become your identity. But when you recognize it's nothing more than a signal, you unlock the power to turn it into fire. Imagine an athlete standing in the tunnel before the biggest game of their life. The stadium is loud. The lights are blinding. The pressure is immense. Fear is there, whispering that they could fail, that they could let everyone down. But what does the champion do? They don't run from that feeling. They decide, they flip the script. They turn that fear into focus, into aggression, into clarity. That's why you see some crumble under pressure and others rise to the moment. The chain doesn't exist. The only difference is the choice. The same principle applies to every dream, every relationship, every risk you want to take. You can let fear of rejection keep you silent, or you can choose courage and speak your truth. You can let fear of failure stop you from starting, or you can choose action and learn through the struggle. You can let fear of judgment keep you small, or you can choose boldness and inspire others with your example. Over and over again, the question is simple: will you let fear drive, or will you take the wheel? There are people walking around right now who have all the talent, all the potential, all the opportunity they could ever need, but they never experience greatness Because fear keeps them sitting on the bench of life. They've built invisible chains around themselves. Chains that say, I can't. Chains that say, what if it doesn't work? Chains that say, they won't believe in me. But the truth is, those chains don't even exist in reality. They exist only in the mind. And if they're built in the mind, they can be broken in the mind. Fear feeds off imagination. It paints pictures of outcomes that haven't even happened. It convinces you of scenarios that live only in your head. That's why fear is always a choice. You can choose to believe the fiction, or you can choose to stay anchored in truth. The truth is that you are capable. The truth is that you can endure. The truth is that failure is never final unless you quit. The truth is that fear has no real power unless you hand it the keys to your future. Every time you face something uncomfortable, every time you stand at the edge of something bigger than you, fear will knock. It will try to negotiate. It will try to remind you of every past mistake, every scar, every weakness. But here's what you've got to see: fear's voice never disappears completely, but your response determines your reality. If you give in, you live trapped. If you stand tall, you live free. Freedom doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means the refusal to obey it. When you were a child, you probably learned to ride a bike. At first, you were terrified of falling. Fear told you that the ground was too hard, that you couldn't balance, that you weren't ready. But what happened? You tried anyway. You fell, you scraped your knees, you cried. But eventually, you got back on. And one day, the pedals moved smoothly. The wheels rolled without wobbling. And suddenly, you were flying down the street with the wind in your face. That moment wasn't about the bike. It was about choice. You could have chosen fear and never learned, or you could have chosen courage and experienced freedom. That lesson never changes as you grow older. The only difference is the stakes get higher, but the principle stays the same. Fear tries to dress itself as wisdom. It tells you, don't take that risk. You need to be safe. Don't push yourself too hard. You might fail. Don't step into that arena. You could lose. But true wisdom doesn't come from avoiding risks. It comes from facing them and learning through them. Playing it safe keeps you average. Stepping into discomfort makes you extraordinary. Every time you choose to obey fear, you choose to stay ordinary. Every time you choose to face it, you step into the extraordinary. There's a fire inside every single one of us that wants to burn brighter, to push harder, to climb higher. Fear is the water that tries to put it out, but courage is the oxygen that makes it roar. You are not meant to live chained down by worry, by doubt, by hesitation. You are meant to live unleashed, unafraid, relentless. And the first step to that life is realizing fear is not your master. It's your test. You don't have to run from it. You don't have to bow to it. You just have to decide who you are in the face of it. That decision is where everything changes. Fear is a choice, not a chain. And the moment you stop treating it like a chain, the moment you stop giving it the authority to dictate your actions, you'll see how much power you actually have. Fear will always knock, but you never have to open the door. Limits exist only in the mind. From the moment you wake up in the morning, your mind starts drawing invisible lines. It whispers about how far you can go, what you can accomplish, how much weight you can carry, how much pressure you can endure. And it keeps building fences around your potential. These fences aren't built from steel or concrete. They're built from thoughts, from beliefs, from the stories you've told yourself, or the lies other people planted in you. The tragedy is that most people never question those fences. They live their entire lives inside boundaries that never actually existed in the first place. What they call reality is nothing more than imagination they accepted as truth. When someone says they've reached their limit, what they're really saying is they've reached the edge of what they believe is possible. The body, the spirit, the heart, they're capable of far more than the mind allows. And the proof is everywhere. Athletes who break world records that were once thought impossible. Innovators who create things the world said could never exist. Leaders who carry nations through battles everyone thought were unwinnable. The pattern is clear. The limit is never real. It's imagined. And when someone dares to imagine beyond it, the line moves. Think about Roger Bannister. For decades, experts, doctors, coaches, they all said it was physically impossible for a human being to run a mile in under 4 minutes. They swore the body would collapse. They said the lungs couldn't handle it. The world accepted that limit. But then Bannister came along and refused to believe the chain. He ran that mile in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. And do you know what happened next? Within a year, several others broke the same barrier. Did the human body evolve overnight? No. What evolved was belief. The moment the illusion of the limit shattered, others realized they were free too. That's what happens with every so-called limit in your life. You think you can only study for 3 hours before your brain shuts down. You think you can only push 200 pounds in the gym before you max out. You think you can only survive so many setbacks before you quit. But the reality is you're stopping not because your capacity has ended, but because your mind told you the story of ending. When the body screams, when the pain sets in, when fatigue weighs heavy, that's not the finish line. That's the gate. Beyond that gate lies another level of strength you've never tapped into. The problem is most people never push through the gate. They retreat. And every retreat makes the fence feel more real. Limits are suggestions, not truths. The human spirit has no ceiling. Every time history said, you can't, someone came along and proved that you can. Every time society said, this is the wall, someone found the hammer and broke it down. Every time fear said, this is too much, courage replied, watch me. The same power lives inside you. But you won't find it if you're constantly obeying the lines drawn in your mind. You've got to challenge them, question them, fight them. You've got to ask yourself, is this really my limit? Or is this just the edge of my comfort? The mind is tricky. It tries to keep you safe. It tells you to stop when things get uncomfortable. It convinces you that danger is around every corner. But most of the time, that danger is only imagined. Yes, safety has its place. But what the mind calls safety, the spirit calls suffocation. Staying inside the fence might keep you comfortable, but it will never make you great. If you want greatness, you have to step into discomfort, into the unknown, into the space where the so-called limits dissolve. Every person who has ever achieved something extraordinary has had to confront the voice that said, this is too far. They've had to wrestle with the thought that it can't be done. They've had to stare at the wall and keep moving until it crumbled. And what they discovered on the other side is that limits are not fixed. They are flexible. They bend when you push. They break when you refuse to stop. And every time you break one, you expand your identity. You become someone bigger, someone stronger, someone freer. Think about the moments in your own life where you thought you were finished but somehow kept going. Maybe it was a workout where your muscles burned and your lungs screamed, but you gave one more rep. Maybe it was a late night study session where you thought your brain couldn't hold another fact, but you pressed on and aced the test. Maybe it was a heartbreak or a failure where you thought you couldn't survive the pain, but you woke up the next day and kept breathing, kept moving. Those moments are proof. Proof that the wall was never solid. Proof that the limit was never real. Proof that you are stronger than you believe. The greatest enemy of growth is not weakness. It's acceptance of false limits. Weakness can be trained. Failure can be learned from. Pain can be endured. But when you accept a limit as truth, you surrender before the fight even begins. You lock yourself in a prison of your own making. And the saddest part is that most people will never even test the walls of that prison. They will live and die inside a cell that was never locked. You are capable more than you imagine. You are capable of running farther, lifting heavier, thinking deeper, working longer, loving harder, enduring greater than your mind will admit. The reason you don't see it is because you stop when the voice in your head tells you to. But if you silence that voice, if you keep going for just one more moment, one more push, one more breath, you will discover reservoirs of strength you never knew existed. And once you taste that, once you see what's possible beyond the so-called limit, you'll never look at barriers the same again. It's not about denying that struggle exists. Struggle is real. Pain is real. Exhaustion is real. But none of those equal limit. They equal threshold. And thresholds are meant to be crossed. They are the places where the average stop and the exceptional begin. The reason champions look superhuman isn't because they were born without limits. It's because they decided not to accept them. They chose to keep going when others stopped. They chose to see barriers as invitations, not stop signs. Limits exist only in the mind. And if they exist only in the mind, that means you hold the key to erase them. That means you can redraw the line. You can stretch the boundary. You can expand the horizon. It means you never have to live caged by, I can't. It means every day is an opportunity to prove to yourself that you can. Pressure creates champions. Pressure is the weight that makes most people crumble. But it is also the exact weight that forges greatness. Without pressure, there is no diamond. Without pressure, there is no strength. Without pressure, there is no breakthrough. It is in the moments when everything feels heavy, when the world is on your shoulders, when the odds are stacked against you, that the real measure of who you are begins to show itself. Pressure doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to reveal you. And yet most people spend their lives running from it, hiding from it, doing everything they can to avoid it, when in reality, pressure is the very environment where champions are born. Think about a weightlifter. If they want to grow stronger, they have to add more weight to the bar. Every rep they push against resistance, every ounce of pressure on their muscles, that's what causes growth. Without the load, without the burn, there's no progress. Life works the same way. The pressure you feel from responsibility, from deadlines, from expectations, from the battles you're fighting, it's the exact thing shaping you, building you, forging you into someone unbreakable. The pressure is not your enemy. The pressure is your coach. Look at history. Look at every legendary athlete, leader, or warrior. They all had to perform under pressure. Michael Jordan didn't become who he was by hitting shots in practice when nothing was on the line. He became who he was because he made shots with seconds left, with the crowd screaming, with the game depending on him. That pressure revealed his greatness. Muhammad Ali didn't become the greatest because he fought easy opponents. He became the greatest because he fought under the pressure of expectation, under the weight of doubters, under the spotlight of the world. That pressure made him rise higher. Champions are not crowned in moments of comfort. They are crowned in moments of chaos. When you run from pressure, you run from growth. Every time you choose the easy road, every time you avoid the hard task, every time you back away from the challenge, because it feels too heavy, you're robbing yourself of the very thing that would have built you. The ones who achieve greatness are the ones who step into pressure willingly, who embrace it, who say, put it on my shoulders, I'll carry it. They are the ones who use pressure as a tool instead of a reason to quit. Pressure creates focus. When everything is on the line, distractions fade. Your mind sharpens. Your body awakens. You find energy you didn't know you had. The clock ticking down, the audience watching, the expectation high. That's when the ordinary crumble, but the extraordinary lock in. That's when instinct and preparation fuse together. When discipline pays off, when clarity takes over. Pressure forces you to strip away the noise and find your true self. Without it, you never discover that level of sharpness. There's a reason the saying exists, pressure busts pipes, but it also makes diamonds. Weak foundations crack under weight. Strong ones hold and grow stronger. The same applies to your life. Pressure exposes the cracks in your discipline, your mindset, your preparation. If you fold, it shows you where you need to train harder. If you rise, it shows you just how much you're capable of. Either way, pressure gives you the truth. And truth is what builds champions. You can't simulate pressure by talking about it. You can't prepare for it by sitting in comfort. You have to step into it. You have to put yourself in positions where you feel the heat, where you feel the weight, where the possibility of failure is real. That's the only way to grow. That's the only way to transform. Champions don't ask for lighter loads. They ask for stronger backs. They don't pray for easier battles. They pray for sharper weapons. They don't look for the exit when the room gets hot. They learn how to breathe in the fire. Every great story has pressure built into it. David didn't face Goliath in silence. He faced him with an army behind him watching, doubting, waiting to see what would happen. That pressure could have crushed him. Instead, it crowned him. The Wright brothers didn't invent flight in a quiet lab without criticism. They did it under the pressure of the world laughing at them, mocking them, telling them they were chasing the impossible. That pressure could have stopped them. Instead, it lifted them. Rosa Parks didn't sit on that bus without pressure. She sat under the weight of injustice, under the risk of violence, under the eyes of a divided nation. That pressure could have broken her spirit. Instead, it fueled her courage. The weight you feel right now, the expectations from your family, the deadlines from your work, the goals you've set for yourself, the voices in your head telling you not to mess up. That is pressure. But pressure isn't there to punish you. It's there to prepare you. It's there to see if you can handle the next level. It's there to strip away the excuses and demand the best version of you. You cannot be crowned without carrying weight. You cannot rise without resistance. You cannot inspire without fire. Pressure is the furnace that burns away weakness and leaves only strength. The problem is that most people see pressure as a curse instead of a calling. They see it as something to avoid instead of something to embrace. But what if you flip the script? What if every time you felt pressure, instead of shrinking, you leaned into it? What if every time life felt heavy, you reminded yourself that the weight is making you stronger? What if every time fear said, "You're not ready," you answered, "That's exactly why I'm here, to get ready"? Pressure trains you in ways comfort never will. It teaches you to trust yourself. It teaches you to dig deeper. It teaches you to perform when the world is watching. Without pressure, there is no proof. Without pressure, you never know if your preparation works. Without pressure, you never become battle-tested. Champions don't just prepare and practice. They perform under pressure. That's what separates them from the rest. Your mindset toward pressure defines everything. If you see it as the enemy, it will crush you. If you see it as the process, it will build you. Pressure is neutral. It's not good or bad. It simply magnifies what is already inside you. If you've built laziness, it will expose that. If you've built discipline, it will reveal that. If you've built excuses, they will collapse under it. If you've built resilience, it will shine brighter than ever. Pressure is the magnifying glass of life. You can't live a legendary life while trying to avoid the weight of responsibility. You can't achieve something extraordinary while trying to escape the spotlight. You can't discover your true power while hiding from the test. Pressure is the admission price for greatness. It is the toll you must pay to step into a higher version of yourself. The reason most people never get there is not because they're not talented enough, but because they weren't willing to carry the load. When the game is on the line, when the decision is critical, when the risk is high, that's when you find out who you are. You don't learn who you are when everything is easy. You don't learn who you are when nothing's at stake. You learn who you are when the pressure feels unbearable, and you still choose to stand, to fight, to move forward. That's where champions are revealed. Pressure is the forge. Pressure is the furnace. Pressure is the test. And without it, there is no champion. Discipline destroys excuses. Excuses are the language of weakness, the comfortable words people hide behind when the weight of responsibility feels too heavy. Excuses sound reasonable. They sound logical. They sound convincing. But at their core, they are lies meant to protect comfort and avoid accountability. Every person who has ever failed to reach their potential has one thing in common. They built a life padded with excuses. Discipline is the weapon that cuts through those lies. Discipline doesn't negotiate. It doesn't justify. It doesn't wait for the right moment. Discipline shows up. No matter how you feel, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what obstacles stand in the way. Excuses collapse in the face of consistent discipline. When the alarm clock rings at 5 in the morning, excuses tell you it's too early, that you deserve more rest, that one more hour won't hurt. Discipline says, get up, move, attack the day. When it's time to go to the gym, excuses say it's raining. It's cold, it's not convenient, your body is sore. Discipline says your body doesn't control, your mission does. When it's time to study, to work, to grind, excuses say you're too tired. You'll do it later. You've earned a break. Discipline says later is not promised. And if you wait, you'll never start. Excuses whisper comfort. Discipline commands action. That is why discipline destroys excuses every single time. Discipline is not about feeling motivated. Motivation is temporary. It comes and goes like the wind. Motivation depends on mood. Discipline depends on decision. Motivation might spark you, but discipline sustains you. Excuses always wait for motivation to fade because they know that's their chance to creep in. Excuses thrive in inconsistency, but discipline starves them because discipline doesn't care about how you feel. It only cares about what you've committed to. A disciplined person can accomplish more in 1 year than an excuse-driven person will in a lifetime. Excuses are endless. People say they don't have time, but they waste hours on distractions. People say they don't have money, but they spend on things that don't matter. People say they don't have the right opportunity, but they never prepare themselves for when the opportunity comes. People say they don't know where to start, but they never take the first step. Excuses are just delays dressed up as logic. They sound smart in the moment, but when the years pass and the results are missing, the truth is, excuses didn't protect you, they robbed you. Discipline is the antidote. With discipline, you stop waiting for perfect conditions and you create progress with whatever you have. Discipline is a habit, not a feeling. You build it the same way you build muscle, through repetition under resistance. The first time you say no to excuses, it's hard. The second time, it's still uncomfortable. But every time after, you get stronger. Every decision compounds. And eventually, excuses lose their voice. They become background noise. They no longer dictate your actions because discipline has rewired your identity. You no longer ask, do I feel like it? You only ask, did I commit to it? And if the answer is yes, you do it. That's the difference between average and exceptional. The reason discipline is so powerful is because it takes the power out of excuses before they even show up. Think of a soldier. A soldier doesn't wake up in the morning and ask if he feels like following orders. He follows them because they are his duty. Discipline transforms your goals into duty. Once something is your duty, it no longer waits for motivation or permission. It simply gets done. And when you live like that, excuses have no place to live. People underestimate how much freedom comes from discipline. At first, it feels restrictive. It feels like sacrifice. But over time, you realize discipline gives you control over your life. Excuses keep you chained. Discipline sets you free. Excuses keep you reacting to circumstances. Discipline makes you proactive. Excuses make you a victim of time. Discipline makes you a master of it. Excuses leave you weak. Discipline makes you unshakable. Freedom isn't found in doing what you want when you want. It's found in doing what's necessary until you've built the life you truly want. Every excuse is a seed of regret. Every time you say, I'll do it tomorrow, you're planting regret in your future. Every time you say, I'm too tired, you're planting regret in your future. Every time you say, it's not the right time, you're planting regret in your future. And eventually, those seeds grow, and you're left with a field of what ifs and onlys. Discipline plants different seeds. Discipline plants seeds of progress, of strength, of resilience, of results. Over time, those grow into confidence, pride, and achievement. The question is, which seeds are you planting daily? Excuses or discipline? Excuses always sound best in the moment. They sound protective. They sound safe. But discipline doesn't care about the moment. It cares about the long game. Discipline sees 10 years down the road and asks, what will I become if I do this every day? Excuses see the next 10 minutes and say, how can I feel comfortable right now? Discipline plays the marathon. Excuses play the sprint. And that's why excuses always lose, because comfort now means regret later. Discipline now means reward later. Discipline doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you'll never slip. It doesn't mean you'll never have setbacks. It means you get back up again and again, no matter how many times you fall. Excuses will tell you that one failure is proof you can't succeed. Discipline will tell you that one failure is simply proof you're trying. Excuses magnify mistakes. Discipline learns from them. Excuses dwell in the past. Discipline focuses on the next step. That's why excuses keep you stuck and discipline keeps you moving. The world doesn't reward excuses. It rewards results. At the end of the day, nobody cares why you didn't show up, why you didn't execute, why you didn't commit. All they see is whether you did or didn't. Excuses might get sympathy, but they never get respect. Discipline doesn't ask for sympathy. It earns respect because it delivers results. And results are what change lives. Look at anyone who has built something extraordinary. They all had every excuse available to them. They had reasons to quit, reasons to stop, reasons to give in. But they didn't. They chose discipline. They showed up when it was hard. They pushed when it hurt. They stayed when others left. That's why they succeeded. Not because life was easier for them, but because discipline destroyed the excuses that would have kept them average. Excuses will always be there. They never run out. Every season of life will give you new ones. But discipline doesn't change with seasons. It's the anchor that holds steady no matter the storm. Discipline says, I will show up whether it's raining or shining, whether I feel like it or not, whether people support me or doubt me. That consistency, that commitment, that refusal to bend, that is what destroys excuses and builds legacies. Pain is fuel for greatness. Pain is the raw material of growth, the undeniable force that strips away comfort and forces you into transformation. Pain is not punishment, it is preparation. Every scar, every tear, every moment when your body aches or your heart feels like it's breaking, those are not signals to quit. They are signals that something greater is being built inside you. The strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire, and the strongest souls are forged in the deepest pain. People try to avoid pain. They run from it. They hide from it. But in doing so, they rob themselves of the very fuel that could take them to heights they've never seen. Think about every time you've grown in your life. It didn't come from easy seasons. It didn't come from sitting in comfort. It came from struggle. It came from the days when you thought you couldn't go on, but did anyway. It came from heartbreaks that forced you to discover your own strength. It came from failures that taught you lessons success never could. It came from setbacks that pushed you to dig deeper than you ever imagined. Pain was the teacher. Pain was the trainer. Pain was the fuel. Without it, you wouldn't be who you are today. In the gym, when your muscles burn, that burn is pain, but it is also growth. Every rep you push through, every ounce of discomfort you endure, that is your body adapting, building, breaking limits. If you stopped every time you felt the burn, you'd never grow stronger. Life works the same way. The burn of rejection, the ache of disappointment, the sting of failure. Those are the reps of the soul. Every time you push through them, you grow stronger, wiser, tougher. Pain is proof that you're stretching beyond your limits, and greatness lives beyond limits. The greatest people who have ever walked this earth have all been fueled by pain. Athletes who were doubted, ridiculed, told they weren't good enough. They turned that pain into drive. Leaders who were betrayed, abandoned, pushed aside. They turned that pain into resilience. Innovators who failed over and over, mocked by society, told their dreams were impossible. They turned that pain into persistence. Pain didn't stop them, pain powered them. And that's why their names are remembered. Most people misunderstand pain. They think it is a wall, but it's a doorway. They think it is a signal to retreat, but it is actually the signal to advance. Pain tells you that you're in the right place, that you're challenging yourself, that you're leaving the old version of yourself behind. When you feel pain, it means you're no longer stuck in the comfort zone. You're in the growth zone. The comfort zone feels safe, but it kills dreams. The growth zone hurts, but it builds destiny. That's why pain is not your enemy, it's your ally. There are two kinds of pain in life: the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. Discipline hurts now, but rewards later. Regret feels easy now, but punishes forever. When you push through the pain of waking up early, of grinding, of sacrificing, you pay the price today so you can enjoy the reward tomorrow. But when you avoid that pain, when you choose excuses, when you choose comfort, you trade it for regret that lingers for years. The question is not whether you'll experience pain. The question is which kind you'll choose. One builds greatness, the other buries it. Pain also humbles you. It reminds you that you're human, that you're not invincible, that life will test you no matter how strong you think you are. But that humility is what keeps you hungry. Pain strips away arrogance. It strips away pride. It strips away the illusion of ease. It leaves you with nothing but the choice to get stronger or stay broken. Those who get stronger are the ones who rise. Those who stay broken are the ones who quit. Pain builds empathy. When you've suffered, you understand suffering in others. You see their battles, their struggles, their scars, and you recognize them because you've walked through your own fire. That empathy is what makes leaders great. Leaders who have never faced pain cannot connect to the people they lead. But leaders who have been broken and rebuilt can inspire because they know what it feels like to fall and what it takes to rise. There is something sacred about pain. It strips away the unnecessary and forces you to focus on what truly matters. When you're in pain, you stop caring about the opinions of others. You stop being distracted by trivial things. Pain puts life into perspective. It teaches you gratitude for the moments of joy. It teaches you appreciation for the victories. It teaches you value for the relationships that stay solid when everything else feels like it's falling apart. Without pain, joy would mean nothing. Without pain, victory would feel empty. Without pain, life would be shallow. The truth is, pain never leaves you the same. It either breaks you or builds you. The difference is how you use it. You can let pain make you bitter, or you can let it make you better. You can let it weigh you down, or you can let it lift you up. You can let it convince you that you're weak, or you can let it prove to you that you're stronger than you imagined. The choice is always yours. And the champions, the warriors, the legends, they all chose to let pain fuel them. Imagine a runner in the last mile of a marathon. Their legs feel like concrete, their lungs are on fire, their body screams to stop. That pain is overwhelming. But if they listen to it and quit, They never cross the finish line. If they embrace it and push through, they discover a level of strength they never thought possible. That finish line becomes sweeter precisely because of the pain it took to get there. Greatness feels great not because it was easy, but because it was hard. Pain gives value to victory. The same applies to every area of life. The pain of long nights building a business makes success meaningful. The pain of rejection on the road to love makes real love precious. The pain of countless failures on the journey to mastery makes mastery rewarding. Without pain, there is no depth, no meaning, no greatness. Pain is what gives weight to achievement. People spend their lives trying to numb pain. They escape into entertainment, into distraction, into substances, into anything that will make them forget the ache. But the truth is, pain ignored doesn't disappear. It festers. Pain avoided doesn't vanish. It grows. The only way to master pain is to face it, to embrace it, to let it teach you and fuel you. When you face it head on, it transforms. It stops being your enemy and becomes your ally. Pain is honest. It doesn't lie to you. It doesn't flatter you. It tells you the truth, that growth costs something, that dreams demand sacrifice, that greatness has a price. Excuses may comfort you, lies may soothe you, but pain gives you the truth. And if you can endure truth, you can endure anything. Legacy is built by courage. Legacy is not built by playing it safe, not built by living quietly, not built by staying inside the lines that the world drew for you. Legacy is built when you step into the unknown with your head held high, when you make choices that scare you, when you do the things that others say can't be done. Courage is the raw ingredient of legacy, because legacy is about impact, and there is no impact without risk. Every person who has left a mark on history had to choose courage over fear, action over hesitation, and sacrifice over comfort. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of it. Fear screams at you that you will fail, that people will laugh, that you don't have what it takes. Courage answers back not with words, but with action. Legacy comes from those actions. The person who speaks when the world wants silence, who stands when others bow, who tries when others quit. That is the person who builds a legacy. Cowards are forgotten, the comfortable fade away, but the courageous are remembered. Every story that inspires you has courage at its center. The soldier who ran into battle knowing he might not come back. The actors who spoke truth to power at the risk of their own life. The athlete who kept competing after countless failures and humiliations. The parent who sacrificed everything to give their children a better life. These legacies are carved into time because courage fueled their decisions. They chose to step into pain, into pressure, into sacrifice. And the world never forgot them. Courage is not something you wait to feel. It is not a gift that arrives when the timing is perfect. Courage is a choice you make in the moment of uncertainty. If you wait for courage to arrive before you act, you will never act. Legacy requires you to act first, to move, to leap, to step into the fire, and courage grows as you do. That is why most people never build legacies. They wait, they hesitate, they let fear dictate their moves, and in the end, they leave nothing behind but unfulfilled potential. Legacy is not about trophies. It's not about money. It's not about titles. Those things fade. Legacy is about how you make people feel, about how your courage gives them courage, about how your choices ripple into lives you may never even meet. When you live courageously, you give permission for others to do the same. When you face fear and refuse to bow, you show the next generation that it's possible. That ripple, that echo, that impact, that is legacy. Courage demands sacrifice. You cannot build something eternal without giving something temporary. You might have to sacrifice comfort, sleep, approval, or even relationships. But every sacrifice you make for courage becomes a brick in the foundation of your legacy. People will remember not the things you avoided, but the things you faced. They won't remember the nights you rested. They'll remember the nights you fought. They won't remember the times you played it safe. They'll remember the times you risked it all. They won't remember the times you blended in. They'll remember the times you stood out. Legacy is not built in moments of ease. It's built in the moments when your hands are shaking, when your heart is pounding, when every voice in your head is telling you to back down, but you step forward anyway. That step is courage. That step is what gets carved into memory. That step is what inspires others long after you're gone. One act of courage can echo for centuries. Think of Martin Luther King Jr. His words still live today because he had the courage to speak them when it was dangerous to do so. Think of Nelson Mandela, who spent years behind bars but never surrendered his courage. Think of Malala, who faced violence and still raised her voice for education. Their legacies are not built on comfort. They are built on courage. The world remembers them not because they lived easy lives, but because they lived courageous ones. Courage does not always look loud. Sometimes courage is quiet persistence. Sometimes courage is showing up every single day, even when no one is watching. Sometimes courage is saying no when everyone else says yes. Sometimes courage is walking away from the crowd to follow your own path. Legacy is built not only in grand moments, but also in the small, consistent acts of courage that add up over a lifetime. Every time you choose courage in the face of fear, you lay another stone in the foundation of your legacy. Fear will always be present. It will always try to talk you out of your dreams, always try to convince you to settle, always try to silence you. But courage is what builds. Courage is what leaves fingerprints on history. Courage is what outlives your body, outlives your lifetime. When people remember you, they won't remember your excuses. They won't remember your comfort. They won't remember your fears. They will remember your courage. Courage is contagious. When one person stands, others find the strength to stand. When one person speaks, others find their voice. When one person refuses to bow, others learn to resist. That is why legacies built by courage don't just last. They multiply, they spread across generations, across borders, across time. Courage is the seed that grows forests long after the planter is gone. Legacy doesn't require perfection. You don't need to be flawless to be remembered. You just need to be courageous enough to keep going, to keep trying, to keep standing even after you fall. People don't connect to perfection. They connect to courage. They connect to the person who stumbled but stood back up, who was afraid but still moved forward, who was broken but kept fighting. That story is what resonates, what inspires, what endures. Your legacy will not be built by the things you avoided. It will be built by the battles you faced. Every time you choose courage, you carve a mark. Every time you step into the unknown, you write a line. Every time you refuse to quit, you strengthen the foundation. And brick by brick, choice by choice, act by act, your legacy takes shape.